بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. In the lesson today with regards to the naming of chapters, we have the section related to the insects. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has chosen to name 3 of the chapters, namely 16, 27 and 29. He named them after insects. And again, there's nothing without a reason. This is because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to draw our attention to these insects, whether in a good way or a bad way. And those insects are the honeybee and nahl, chapter 16, chapter 27 and naml, the ants, and number 29, which is the spider, al-ankabut. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first of all brings these animal insects to our attention, and He actually praises the honeybees. He praises, or He mentions them in a good light. He also mentions the ants, and specifically one of those ants, in good light, and so they are a positive creature, whereas He mentions the spider in a negative connotation. The spider's connotation of their family is not good. And the first thing that sparks to mind, which I'm sure most of you have, is that the difference between the spider and the ants and the bees is that the spider is a solitary insect. It lives by itself, it hunts by itself, it does all these things by itself. Whereas the ants and the bees are social insects. They live together, they work together, they help each other out, they are a community. And that in itself is an indication from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala of the importance of being in a community, the importance of social transactions, because no doubt when you live together, you work together, you will achieve much more. And that's the whole notion of the jama'ah, the group, the congregation. And Allah subhanahu, the Prophet ﷺ said, Yadullahi ma'al jama'ah, the hand of Allah, meaning the support of Allah is with the jama'ah, the group, the congregation. But the other reasons why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala named this surah like this, first of all, with regards to the bee. This chapter of the bee, if you read it closely, and inshallah I hope you do, is full of alerts towards the ni'am of Allah, the blessings of Allah. If you look at the chapter, it's full of Allah reminding us of the blessings, of the ni'am, of what He has given us, whether it is celestial bodies, the sun, the moon, the stars, whether it is the ocean and what comes in the ocean, whether it's the animals, whether it's the clothes, lots of ni'am. If you just read it, you will see that. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ends that by saying, وَاشْكُرُوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ, be grateful to the ni'am of Allah. But He wants to highlight here one of the ni'am which is established and embodied in this small insect, which is the bee. Because from this bee that Allah has created, you get a drink which is beautiful, it's very sweet in its taste. It is a medicine. It has so much benefits. I mean, there's so much has been written and documented about the honey. I'm sure you are all aware of this and I don't need to mention it. So Allah alerts us to how His ni'mah is even in this insect, which has nothing to do with you. You don't do anything with you. It's not even an animal that's, it needs to be looked after. It does everything by itself. It rears itself, it goes out by itself, it organizes itself, it has a system by itself. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that this animal is a ni'mah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. So you should recognize the blessing of Allah. The second insect, which is the ant. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the ant in the whole story of Sulaiman alayhi salam and his army. And as they were approaching an ant's nest, an ant's hill, one of the ants shouted out as advice to the other ants, get inside your accommodation, your home, your holes, because otherwise Sulaiman and his army might destroy you or kill you, or explode you, or cause you to fracture or to break, fragment. There's a specific word in the Quran it's used. And they are not aware, they are not aware. So not only did this ant demonstrate a very positive nature, is that it's advising its other community, it was a nasih, it was sincere to its fellows, but also it showed a very good characteristic, which is to give excuses for people, because it was ready to give excuse for Sulaiman that maybe they don't know, they're not aware of. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with His power and His miraculous realities for the human. He allowed Sulaiman to hear what the ant said, and Sulaiman heard what she said, and he smiled, laughing as to her saying, and that caused him as well to remember the ni'mah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he made a dua therein. If you go to the surah of the ants, you will find that dua there of Sulaiman alayhi salam. And so it is almost like an embodiment of how to believe in a community, to be sincere and to advise one another, to help one another, to look after for one another. And so the ant was given that praise. On the other hand, and contrary to all this, is the spider. The spider doesn't live as a social animal. It's not, it lives in a community. It lives by itself. And actually, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that one of the most weakest houses is the house of the spider. That's the weakest house. And the example of those who worship other than Allah is like the example of the spider. Because the spider's house, we know the spider's house is a web. And we know that the web is one of those houses that's very quickly, can with a stroke of a hand, it can just be demolished. Yet it is quite strong, and it's a strong fiber, it's a strong thread, as I'm sure you know. But it's very quickly demolished, but it can be rebuilt again very quickly. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala again is alerting us to the fact that it's not just the house as a web, but the house or the family structure within the spider is also very weak. And we know from certain observations and things that the spider's house, even inside the house, they don't live, they don't live as a husband and wife. The spiders, even some of the spiders, you can see some of these documentaries, that even when the male mates with the female, he's quick to try and get away, because he knows that if he doesn't, that female spider might actually make a meal out of him. These are very interesting documentaries if you watch them and get a chance, that sometimes if he doesn't run away, and it's usually the male is also smaller than the female for some reason, and so she can actually so you can see that their relationship is very nominal. It's a very nominal relation, and it's based on mutual benefit when you compare it to the honeybee and you compare it to the ant. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that kind of house is similar to those who associate with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because what happens, they associate with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala others, and when the going gets tough, those people will reject them, which is what will happen on the Day of Judgment. And that's actually what's mentioned in Surah Al-Ankabut on the tongue of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Again, go back and see those verses, is that he said the idols and those you worship besides Allah, they will actually curse you on the Day of Judgment. They will reject you, they will deny you. And that is the nature of any relationship that is built on material gain or some sort of benefit that is material. When that benefit goes, why should they have benefit you? And then you can see that when you read the Quran, you see the multiple dialogues of the people of the fire, whether it's the shaitan and those who followed him, whether it's those who are followers, the heads of kufr and the heads of misguidance, and their followers, they will attack each other and say, it's your fault. No, it's your fault. Well, you followed us. Who told you to follow us? And so on and so forth. Again, the dialogue is documented in the Quran there. And so the naming of these chapters, which are related to insects, gives us a lot of insight into the lives of insects, but actually helps us a lot and guides us in our path in this life. I hope that's been useful.